Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Fresh Perspective. If you like what we're doing here, please like us at Fresh Perspective on social media. Look for the WCHE logo. I am Donna Saul, and I'm with Jen Croneberger, who's been kind enough to sit in with me this morning. Our next guest coming up is Frank Kermit. He's an expert dating and relationship coach, and he's got a lot to say about those of you who have maybe had an unfortunate Valentine's Day and why some people actually turn away perfectly good dating potential prospects. So, hey, Frank, welcome.
Hello, Donna. Hello, Jen. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Frank. So where do you want to jump into this conversation? You want to start with people who might have a broken heart this morning?
Well, Valentine's Day is also known as Breakup Day.
Serious? Oh, wow.
Well,
that's harsh.
Well, that's because Valentine's Day is a day of reflection. People are supposed to, and sometimes feel pressure to, express their affection for someone, and sometimes it makes them realize, I'm with somebody I don't really want to be with. So a lot of relationships come to an end on Valentine's Day, and February 15th is the day most people are starting over.
Okay. So what do you think? What's step number one?
Step number one is to assess how you got into this situation.
Oops.
You can't blame the other person. You can't always say, well, this person was bad to me, so that person is wrong, and that person is wrong. And if everybody you've ever dated was a jerk, there's a common element in every relationship you've had thus far.
Right.
The common element is you.
Yep.
And people don't really like to hear that. That's why, they come to a dating coach hoping to hear, oh, you're special just the way you are, and you're perfect just the way you are. Well, maybe not. Let's find out if you're doing anything that's pushing people away. So that's something to consider. And the next thing is you have to look at what it is you want long-term, your long-term life plan. Don't give me this, well, my ideal partner would be, there is no ideal partner. Human beings are flawed. There's not one person out there who's going to be your perfect match. So you got to figure out what's most important to you and look for someone that can fulfill those qualities. With that said, the third step is, would that wonderful person that you want to date want to date you? And if you don't have something to offer, you have to look at that and say, okay, well, what can I do to develop myself into a better partner? And this is where a lot of people struggle, because throughout most of our lives we have received the message that people should love you just the way you are. Now, that's a wonderful intellectual construct. It does not work in real life. In real life, commitment must be earned. And if you're not offering as much as you think you are, you're going to end up alone.
Well, that's interesting. So how do you get to the source of that?
Well, first of all, you look at exactly the type of lifestyle you want, the type of future you want. And I want something realistic. Everybody fantasizes about, well, I wish I had a lifestyle where I didn't have to work every day. That's a wonderful fantasy. Now let's get back to reality. The reality is, based on the lifestyle you want and how much you're earning right now, you're probably going to have to work 40 hours a week at a regular job. If that's the case, you're figuring out what it is you want to do on your evenings, on your weekends. You want a vacation once a year, or are you more of a homebody? Are you looking for a lifestyle where you're with a partner every evening, every weekend, or do you want a certain lifestyle that requires you or your partner to work more hours than not? If you have children, are you looking for someone to be a really good step-parent to your kid? One of the things I do when I coach a single parent is I say, okay, write down the qualities that you're looking for in an ideal partner. Now write down the qualities you're looking for in a step-parent to your kids, assuming the kids are teenagers or infants. When I point out that, this list here of what you're looking for in a step-parent is very different from the list that you're looking for in terms of an ideal partner, they should be one and the same. And that's something that we work on through coaching to say, okay, now we know what it is you're looking for in a step-parent. Maybe you're going to have to give up some of the things you want in your ideal partner. So I'll give you a really clear example of how all this works. A question I like to encourage people to ask on a date, what would you do with $1 million? Some people will say, I would quit my job, I would travel the world, and I would buy what I need as I go. Very adventurous, very exciting, a lot of passion there. Then again, the step-parent that you're looking for might want to say, well, $1 million, I think I'd pay off my debts, pay off the house, put some money aside for an education fund. not that exciting. A little boring even, some people would say. But that's the type of quality that you may aspire to. So there is an example of how maybe the person you're looking for to be that good step-parent, if you're a single parent, is not necessarily the person who's going to excite you right away.
Oh, I see. Okay. So is that something that... So is this a good match then, if you understand what you have going into it?
It would be a very good, I don't judge either way.
Yeah.
What I do is I say you have to find someone who has these type of compatible values.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have compatible values, as much as you may have great chemistry, the great chemistry can't carry you through for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Those compatible values will eventually come up, and more often than not, you'll end up heartbroken.
So, can you have both?
Can you have both? My experience in coaching people is that you can have a little bit of each, but eventually one will always beat out the other. And if you have really great chemistry and you also want to have really great responsibility, that depends on the individual response to what they interpret as chemistry. And I know that sounds like a roundabout answer. The idea is if what you're massively attracted to would be considered an unhealthy behavior pattern for a successful long-term relationship, then no, you can't have both.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's fair.
Okay, so if, let's say, you completely are committed to monogamy, but the person that you have the great chemistry with is not, clearly that's going to be a conflict of interest
That's
long
exactly
term, right?
So
but, I mean, that's an extreme example.
The person that you may have that great sexual chemistry with maybe has that sexual chemistry because they practice a consensual non-monogamous lifestyle. I believe there was a study done where 21% of the U.S. population practices consensual non-monogamy.
Yeah.
So if somebody lives that lifestyle, it will fuel their chemistry, it'll fuel their passion, which makes them attractive. But if it's going against the type of lifestyle you want, then you have to understand that the long-term prospects aren't very good unless you either adapt to a lifestyle or you look to say, well, let me explore this lifestyle and see if I can handle it. Or you have to say, look, everything is great and the chemistry is there, but the compatibility is not. Mm-hmm. So we can enjoy our time together, but we can't expect to plan a future together.
Well, and I think that's a really good point, because I think that takes a lot of personal commitment to your own self-worth. Yep. To not get lost in the chemistry and rather always keep that eye out to what is your values, what do you want for yourself long term. Jen and I were just talking about that over the break, how people get so lost in the trip that sometimes you don't find the stillness to think about what is really healthy for you and what is not.
Yeah,
I agree with you 100%. One of the things that I teach people who are struggling with exactly this is the concept that commitment must be earned. When you commit to somebody and they have not earned that commitment, you are destined for heartbreak.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's why if somebody, let's say you're dating someone and, everything is great, but there's no compatible issues. An incompatibility could be something as simple as one person wants to live in the city, the other person wants to live in the outskirts, maybe more of the country. You may have a great connection. You may have even a good friendship, a solid basis. You may really love each other. Love is not enough. If you don't have some type of compatibility, at some point, that is going to cause resentment. Mm-hmm. When you see a couple that's been together for 15, 20 years, and you realize there's no major issues involved, we're not dealing with addictions, we're not dealing with violence in the home, and they're struggling to make it work, and after 15, 20 years, they're splitting. Why are they splitting? Because they still have an affection for each other, they still care about each other, but they can't get along. Chances are very high that we're dealing with a resentment that is built up over time from those incompatibilities, from their emotional needs not being met. Once a couple feels a deep resentment, it's difficult to feel any sort of love and attachment when you're constantly resentful for little things along the way that have accumulated.
So how do you deal with that? You find the right person, or so you think is the right person. You have this chemistry, and now all of a sudden, you're looking at there's little things here and there that maybe you have differences on. They're not huge. They're not, major core values, but they're little things. Can you compromise? Can you do that and create a positive outcome?
there is a difference between compromise and settling.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is where a lot of people make the error that you're describing now, where they're saying, I'm not happy about this little thing. If it turns out that little thing is not actually a little thing,
right.
If it turns out that what you would say, this is a negotiable thing I can let go, if it turns out that is a boundary and not a preference,
got it.
And you're sticking around, you're settling. And that's why there's such a negative connotation to settling, because you're basically giving up on a boundary. Compromise is when something isn't that important to you and you can truly live with or without it. That's when you can compromise. People don't feel resentful when they compromise because it wasn't important enough to them to begin with. They feel resentment when it's a boundary. Unfortunately, not everybody is aware of their own boundaries. They'll only find out once they're in that situation where they are in a relationship.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I think you're right. I think often people confuse the two, and they think that this is something I can compromise on and it's not a big deal. However, I think you're right. I think that's how we get to settling, because it was a boundary all along and you don't recognize that early enough.
Exactly. One of the things I tell every single person is that don't commit to a person right away, because it doesn't help you. Dating is not just about finding the right person, and it's not about having fun. Fun is the process that you get to know someone, but the goal of dating is not to have fun. The goal of dating is to learn about yourself. It's a journey of self-discovery. You go out on a date with as many people as possible so you can learn about yourself in terms of what is and is not important to you. People with less experience have a lot of beliefs in terms of, I would never tolerate this, and this is what I have to have. Until they get that dating experience, they don't really know for sure what is a boundary and what is a preference. And when they finally figure it out, they've already invested a lot of time into what could become an unhealthy relationship.
Seems like it's a really fine line, too, between preferences and boundaries or settling. And it sounds like it's a very fine line.
Here's the thing. When you are unaware of what your actual boundaries are, it is a fine line. Because just like preferences can change easily, someone who doesn't know what their boundaries are may be too flexible on their boundaries.
And so this is where it goes back to, you have to know yourself first.
Yeah. Exactly.
Every time.
Someone who knows what a boundary is, they will stick to that boundary no matter how good the feelings are.
Right. Yep.
And if you can do that, if you can stick to your boundary, no matter how good the feelings are, the chances of you wasting your time or making a commitment to the wrong partner will lessen.
And so this leads me into the last part of that conversation that we wanted to have about, is this what some people are doing to push people away because they're not firm on their boundaries?
What people are doing, and this I think we're going to go in a very different direction now. Sometimes people behave in ways that will turn off a potential partner.
How so?
So either they're doing it unconsciously, meaning they don't really realize that talking about their ex on a first date kind of pushes away the person that they're trying to meet.
Yeah, perhaps.
She's like, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps. That might not work out.
When you talk about how great your ex was and how loving your ex was and how you had such a great connection with your ex, you're not having a date anymore. You're having a therapy session.
But don't you think that's like 101? I mean, it's shocking to me that some people...
people do it.
Oh, my God, really? They do this?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, my goodness. So
I'll tell you this. I've been doing this now for about 15 years. And the one thing that I've noticed over time is that less and less people don't know how to relate. They don't know how to date. They don't know how to connect. And I don't want to blame all this because of technology.
But that's part of it.
The ability to connect is separate from the technology people use, and people can still connect even with technology present. Does technology influence the way people relate? Of course it does. But at the end, a human being has to make a choice about their own destiny, regardless of the technology around them. So there is a big struggle now that people don't know what to do. They've been given, and this is something I've said many times, the power of choice without knowing what to do with it is what leads to misery.
So
you have all this choice. You can have anything you want. You can have any kind of relationship you want. You can be in a relationship with any kind of person you want. All of this freedom, all of this choice. And if you haven't done some self-discovery, if you haven't done the work behind knowing what to do with that choice, you'll be just as miserable, if not more miserable, than someone who grows up in a society of limited choice and can make a choice from that.
Well, before we let you go, Frank, I want to go back to that, because I can hear people asking about how do people not know to connect. What do people who connect do that people who don't know how to connect not do?
All right. I'm going to give you a very broad answer that most people will be able to relate to.
Okay.
Right now, most people go into relationships thinking, what's in it for me? Which makes sense, because you don't want to be in a relationship where you're taken advantage of.
Right.
With that said, part of being in a relationship is to also focus on what you can do for the other person. And this is where there seems to be a disconnect. So I'll leave you with a visual image. There was a visual image of a couple that obviously they've been together for maybe 10, 20 years, and they're both unhappy because it looks like they just had a fight. But it starts to rain. And the man in the couple opens up his umbrella. The umbrella is only big enough for one person, and he holds it over his wife. Now, they're both angry. They're both facing in the other direction. They're both scowling. But he's still holding the umbrella to keep the rain off his wife. In that particular scenario, the question is asked, who loves the other more right now? Most people would say, well, the wife loves the husband more because he's doing something for her. That's not what the research shows. The more you do for someone, the more attached you become, the more you feel love towards them. So in that situation, the man would actually love the wife more because of what he's giving in a relationship.
Okay, that makes sense. Hey, Frank, we got to cut it off, unfortunately. This has really been fascinating, and I hope you'll come back sometime.
Anytime you want, I'm there.
Thanks, Frank.
Yeah, you can find Frank at franktalks.com. I am Donna Saul. You've been listening to Fresh Perspective. I've been with Jen Croneberger. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Take care.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquests, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar. The Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Make your first time the best time of her life. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, 'cause Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.